Hey guys, Lee with LG Speed and Custom here, and in this video we are working on Tim's 1959 Dodge. My friend Tim bought this 59 Dodge a couple months back. It's a pretty cool little truck. He's really dressed it up to fit the old man, his inner personality of, old man lifestyle. Check this out. This says Ash. That's from Mount St. Helen. The mountain that erupted like 40 years ago. I guess it's super windy over there, and despite being like almost 300 kilometers away, here's the ash. I mean, look at the sky right now. Anyways, that's not important. We're here to work on Tim's truck. So yeah, it looks like a, old-fashioned grandpa truck, but under the hood, it actually has, it's got a small block Chevy swapped into it with a turbo 350. It's got power steering and power disc brakes added onto it. So it's a pretty nice, reliable driver. Tim wants to rebuild the front end on this truck because he says it's a little wandery going down the road. I don't know. I took it for a drive and it felt fine to me, but I drive old junk every day. Tim hasn't had an old vehicle in a long time, so it could be partially that I'm used to driving old junk that's worn out, and he's used to driving brand new stuff, or I don't know. Anyways, we're going to lift the front end of this truck up, give it a once over. We got new kingpins for it. We've got new tie rod ends. Tim actually wants to make a whole new tie rod from scratch because I don't know how, I've never seen this happen before, but he was going down the road one day and all of a sudden it started steering really funny. He looked underneath and his tie rod like bent, like it was buckled. So I don't know how that happens just going down the road, but it happened to Tim. So we're gonna make a whole new tie rod out of DOM tubing, as well as just, give it a once over under there and see what we got. Let's jack it up and pull the wheels off. Got the wheels off. I think I'm gonna start by undoing the tie rod. To get the spindles off, we're gonna end up undoing the steering arm, and it's just easier to get the tie rod off now than when this is flopping around. So we'll take the tie rod off, then we can take these hubs off, take the caliper off. We'll just lay the caliper to the side, and then we can pull the spindles off and take them over to Ken at Alltech, and he can install the new bushings and ream them out. Cotter pin out. Boom. Calipers next. Come on. Doesn't want to let go. All right, there we go. Okay, we're just going to lay this caliper on the leaf spring for now. Let's take our rotor off now. Cool. So I'm not sure who makes this disc brake conversion kit. One of the first things I've noticed though is the castle nut is on backwards in order to get the cotter pin to fit, which is a little weird. I've never seen that before, but I mean, it will work. It'll be fine.
I'm assuming that's because most disc brake kits are wider. Like the track width on a disc brake front end is wider than a drum brake front end. So the rotor's probably just a little bit bigger than the old drum brake hub. But yeah, it should still work fine. Looks like there's a spacer on here as well. A little bit of a loose fit, but again, it should be fine. This spacer is just for the wheel seal, not the actual bearing. So yeah, it's fine. I'm not worried about it. I'm gonna throw the rotor and spacer just in the back here. I just want to point out that Tim is old man enough that he built this and is super proud of it, but not old enough that he put gas shocks on it. And he's got the tried and true hockey stick to hold it open, which naturally had slid to the front at some point, so I had to like crawl in there and get it. Tim's not even old. He just wants to be old. Walter Matthau and Grumpy Old Men, that's his aspirations in life. So the last thing we got left here is we're gonna pull this caliper bracket off. We got 2 bolts up here, and then this is the back side of the steering arm bolts. So we'll pull those 2 bolts out, and then the caliper bracket and steering arm are off and out of the way. And then we just gotta blast this bolt here out, and the kingpin should come up through the bottom. I think they'll come apart okay. The kingpins, they're not terrible in this. I'd say they're probably a 6.5 out of 10. So hopefully they come apart without a fight. Okay, mental note. This is up, and this side faces, this pin is not working at all. That faces the outside of the spindle. Ooh, there's a little spacer in there too. Don't lose that. Okay, steering arm's out of the way. Caliper brackets off. Our kingpin bolt has a little like locking retainer on it with little tabs that fold over. So we'll fold those back out of the way, and then we should be able to get a socket on there. Too big. 11/16. All right, don't lose this retainer. I'm gonna lift the front axle up just to give me a little more swinging room. To pound the kingpin up from the bottom. I just realized I can pound this out from the top. So these Dodge kingpins have like a little, it's almost like a frost plug that sits in the top here. And I thought if I pounded it up from the bottom, that would pop out and then the kingpin would come up. But there's one in the bottom as well. So it doesn't really matter. The kingpin will go either way. So we might as well go through the top where it's easy. Yeah, that's coming out the bottom. All right. We got the bottom frost plug out. I wonder if I can pound it up now. Get the top one out. Oh yeah. And then, you know what? The kingpin, I'm on a roll, so I'm just gonna keep going. Okay, kingpin's out. Spindle's off. We had one shim up there. couple shims and the bearing on the bottom. So now I'll just take the other side apart, do the same thing, and then we can take those over to Ken and he can put new bushings in and ream them. Our spindles are all washed and clean. I just pulled the grease nipples out, so we'll throw them in this box here. Here's our kingpin stuff. We got the kingpins themselves. Ken's gonna want those. And here's the new bushings. Ken is gonna want those. Here's new thrust washers and some shims. We've got the little plugs for the end of the spindles, the frost plug dealios. They're not actually frost plugs, I just call them that because that's what they remind me of. These are new nuts that hold the kingpins in place. And then there's the grease nipples that we just pulled out. Weird, all the like ash and everything it's gone now. It's just like a nice, clear, sunny blue sky day again. Just dropped off the kingpins with Ken. Today is Wednesday, so he figures he'll have them ready to go for Monday. So in the meantime, we can head back to the shop and start building the tie rod. All right, here is Tim's very wonky tie rod. We're gonna build a whole new tie rod from scratch. And to do that, we're gonna use some 7/8 DOM tubing. We've got two brand new tie rod ends. We've got some jam nuts, a left-hand thread, this one with a little slot in it, a little notch that indicates that that's left-hand thread to go with the left-hand thread jam nut or tie rod end. And then I've got a left-hand thread tap and a right-hand thread tap. So the first thing I did was took a measurement, and this is 47 inches from the edge of our tie rod over to this edge, 47 inches. Now, we're not going to be using these clamps. We are using the jam nuts instead. These clamps, see how it's got this like slice in it? As you tighten this bolt, the clamp kind of pinches that together and it stops this from turning. Because this DOM tubing is considerably thicker, that's 1/8 inch thick, the clamps don't work super awesome. So we're going to use the jam nut instead. Because of that, we need to make this piece this much shorter than this measurement. You know, essentially our tube, or a piece of tubing, we're going to cut to the end of, or the beginning of these nuts rather than the end where it used to be. Does that make sense? And that's just because these are going to take up, you know, that much space, whereas these don't. So the measurement I measured was 46.5. Let's cut this down to 46.5, and then we'll thread one end right hand and one end left hand. So I've got our 11/16 right hand thread tap in there, and taking care to get it as straight as humanly possible, we're just going to thread it until it bottoms out. Got lots of cutting fluid on here. Let's put some more. You can never have too much cutting fluid. Just a little bit right up. This would be awesome in a lathe, but I don't have a lathe. I don't know why I don't have a lathe. I really need to get a lathe. we go. We've got a brand new tie rod, but not bent, which Tim will appreciate. So all that's left now is we'll give it a quick little scuff with some wax and grease remover and maybe blow a little bit of black paint on there. I've got it threaded all the way in right now. The advantage of having a right-hand thread and a left-hand thread is we can bolt this back in the truck when we get our spindles back together. And all we got to do is just turn the bar. And by turning it one way, we'll thread it out. And then if you go too far, you can turn it the other way and it threads it in, and you don't actually have to take the ends apart. Over here in the Model A frame paint booth, just give it a quick coat of, this is Krylon DTM gloss black in a rattle can. Top shelf. Well, it's a few days later and we've got our kingpins, or our spindles, back from Ken. He put new bushings in and reamed them, and we're ready to put this thing back together again. Pretty much the reverse order we took it out. We're going to put some shims in here. I don't know if it'll be the same amount of shims that came out or not, but we'll put some shims in there to make sure that's nice and firm and doesn't wiggle up and down, and just kind of put it back together. Our kit did come with some new shims as well as some thrust bearings. How many we got here? It looks like we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shims, and I think these ones are thicker, so maybe we'll put these ones with the thrust bearings and then put the thinner ones up on top. And you just put them in as you need them. If one will slide in, put it in. If it won't slide in, then you don't need it. So we'll put our, see, that slides on like that, and then we've got our little thrust washer or thrust bearing on the bottom, and I don't know if we need shims on this. I don't think we'll get them in there. That's a really tight fit. As a little bit. We might be able to get one in the top. These are super thin. Oh, maybe not. No, I don't think we can get shims in there, which is fine. Okay, we'll put our kingpin in now. Notice this flat spot in there? That's got to line up with this hole, so that when we put our bolt back in to hold the kingpin tight, it is in the right spot. And this should, when it goes through, it should have just a little bit of resistance. Okay, I think we're lining up to our bearing now. Okay, now we've got these little guys that go in there. How did that go again? I think like that. I don't remember how that went together. I will have to get my notes out. Oh, that went like that. Yeah. Okay, we got it now. It's making sense now. Like that. And I know it came with new bolts, but the new bolts are a little bit bigger, like longer. So I'm just going to put the old bolts back in because I know they work. Maybe. Yeah, that feels good. Barely wiggles at all, which is what you want. You want it as tight as you can. Okay, I'm going to get a socket and tighten that up. Oh, that will go a little more. Oh yeah, that snugged it right up. It's super happy now. Okay, now we'll hammer these over. And this one. So this didn't like compress the... Actually, I could probably put a washer on. No, we don't want it to compress that because we want it to bottom right out in the kingpin. So that's why this is a little bit loose, which I think should be just fine. Because if we made it so that if we put some washers on here so that this bottomed out into there, then it wouldn't be pushing the kingpin as tight. Cool. Okay, now we can put our little frost plugs in. I think this is just to keep the grease out. Did those go in that way or that way last time? Oh, they won't fit that way. They got to go this way. This isn't fitting super awesome. I wonder if the old ones will work. It's almost like they're a little bit too big. Okay, I got these stupid things in. I ended up taking them over to the belt sander and just like shaving a little bit off the end, and then they tapped in there. Grease nipples are back in. Just give it some grease until you see it coming out the sides. We had some come out the top. We're done. Kingpin's done. Do the same on the other side, and then we can put our brake assembly all back together. When our steering arms are back on, we can put our tie rod on and do a wheel alignment. Oh yeah, that's solid. 10 out of 10. Okay, our spindles and kingpins and front end is all back together. Steering arms are back on. So now we can put the tie rod on. Once we get the tie rod on, we're just gonna leave it set where it is for now. And then we will put the tires on and just use a tape measure to do an alignment. On these straight axle front ends, there's nothing really to adjust other than the toe in and the toe out. And you don't need to go to a wheel alignment shop to do that. You and a buddy can do it. With a tape measure, you just measure from you pick a groove on the tire, make sure you use that groove on the front and the back. Get one friend to hold the tape measure on the other side on the tire in a groove, and you just want like an 1/8 inch toed in, meaning that the front, if you measure from the front of the tread, tire to tire, and then the back tread, tire to tire, your front one's gonna be an 1/8 inch toed in. So basically your tires will this is exaggerated obviously, but your tires will go like that. And the reason for that is when you start driving and it gets that forward pressure on the rotational pressure, I guess you could call it, all the little tolerances in the little bit of slop in your wheel bearings and your kingpins and your tie rod ends, the whole steering system, as it gets pressure on it from moving, it's going to go like that and even out just about perfectly straight. So that's why you want an 1/8 inch toed in. Not this way, because then when you start driving, it's going to go that way, and they'll be fighting each other like that, which you don't want. And to adjust that is you just thread this bar in and out. Right now we're thread all the way in, so it's not going to get any narrower. Right now our wheels are definitely going to be like this, so we're just going to thread it out, and they're going to go like that until we're at 1/8 inch toed in. Oh yeah, got the right size. Kerchunk. Cool, this side is done. Okay, interesting. This nut, castle nut on the other side, was 3/4 inch, and on this side it takes a 7/8 socket. I got both tie rod ends from the same supplier. Where's our castle nut go through? Right there. Ugh. Okay, done. Put the wheels on next. All right, wheel alignment time. So like I said, you can do a wheel alignment by yourself. You just got to grab a buddy. I grabbed Jeffy. Say hi, Jeffy.
Hello.
We're gonna measure from one tire groove to the other tire groove. I went ahead and put a white mark where we want to be so that you remember to measure in the same spot every time. We are 63 and 3/8. Okay, let's go to the back. I've got a groove or a mark on the back in the same spot. And this reads 62. All right, I'm going to loosen this tie rod off. Oh, hold on. I might have tightened the jam nuts too tight. I did. Okay, hold on. I got to get a wrench. Okay, so I got the jam nuts loosened off, and I just twisted this out until we've got our tape measure mark here. We're at 62 and 7/8 after a bit of turning. And then up front here, we are at 62 and just under 5/8. So we're about a 1/4 inch towed in right now. Just fine tune the bar a little bit more. And we want to just bring this out just ever so slightly. I think we probably want to be about 62. But if we're a 1/4 inch towed in right now, we're 62 and a half. 62 and like, I think 5/8 is where we want to be. Okay, there's 62 and 5/8. Let's go measure the backside again. So the front is 62 and 5/8 plus 1/8 of an inch gives us 62 and 3/4. And if we measure this, we are at 62 and 3/4 on our line. So we're good. Let's tighten up our jam nut in here and we're done. All right, let's do a cold start. This truck's been sitting for 2 weeks. Hey, not bad. Not bad at all. Okay, I'm gonna let it warm up for a little bit and then we'll go for a test drive. We should pump our brakes back up because I squeezed the calipers back to get them on. All right, first impressions, perfect. No complaints at all so far. I'm happy with it. It does steer a lot better than it did. Although I thought it steered really good before. Our brakes feel nice, which is good. Not that they should change, but you know, I don't know, sometimes cars get weird. Steering is so smooth. I don't know what power steering is swapped into this truck, but it works really good. Feels like driving my Suburban around. All right. Test drive was a success. All right, Tim's truck, all back together, front end's rebuilt, drives great, super happy with it. And just in the nick of time too, because it's Friday, end of the day, and tomorrow is the LG Speed and Custom Reliability Run, which is what Tim wanted to get this truck done for, so we got it done just in the nick of time. Anyways, we're gonna end this video here. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed how to rebuild a Dodge front end. Not super complicated stuff, but still stuff that needs to be done, and some people like to learn, so really appreciate that. Make sure to like and comment on what you thought about this video, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.